If you've been following the Ukraine war, you have probably felt this. Everyone is talking about peace, but the war keeps getting bigger. The US says it has a plan. Zelensky says the people should decide. Trump says World War III is around the corner. And NATO says Europe needs to prepare for war. So what exactly is going on? Is the war coming to a halt, or is there going to be a new war? Well, here's what's happening right now. The United States has a proposal. A free economic zone in Ukraine's Donbass. That's what the US is pitching. A free economic zone in Ukraine's Donbass region. Now, what does that mean? Think of it as a buffer zone. Donbass is the eastern part of Ukraine. 80% of it is under Russian control. The US says Kiev should completely withdraw from it. Leave Donbass, give it up, turn it into a free economic zone. But who will control this zone? Well, the US proposal does not mention that. Now, all of this is part of the American peace plan. And it suits Russia because they have been eyeing Donbass since 2014. The Russians have been fighting in this region. And like I said, they now control most of it. Ukraine is fighting to regain control, but the US proposal is asking them to withdraw, to turn Donbass into some weird halfway house, not fully Ukrainian, not fully Russian, and definitely not the front line that it is today. That's what Donald Trump wants. And how has Zelensky responded? Well, no leader wants to be the person who gives away land, so of course Zelensky cannot agree to the proposal. At the same time, he cannot say no to Donald Trump. So he has floated a third alternative, a referendum over territory. The Ukrainian president wants the people of Ukraine to decide because any deal that cedes territory is political kryptonite. And a referendum kills two birds with one stone. It gives Zelensky political cover and it buys him time. But that's not what Washington wants. They want this wrapped up by Christmas. That's what Zelensky has said, that the Trump administration wants a quote-unquote full understanding of the plan by Christmas. That's less than 2 weeks away. Plus, Trump wants elections in Ukraine.
If there is a need for elections now, there must be a ceasefire at least during election process and during voting. And this is something that must be discussed. And honestly, we think here in Ukraine that America should speak to the Russian side about this.
So Zelensky says he is ready for elections, but first there must be a ceasefire. And amid all of this, Donald Trump is warning of World War III. That's right, the same US president who promised to end this war within 24 hours of taking office now says a world war is in the making.
I'd like to see the killing stop. 25,000 people died last month, soldiers, mostly soldiers, but some people also where bombs were dropped. But for the most part, 25,000 soldiers died last month. I would love to see it stop. Things like this end up in third world wars. And I told that the other day. I said, you know, everybody keeps playing games like this. You'll end up in a third world war, and we don't want to see that happen.
Trump's frustration is with everything, with Ukraine, with Europe, with the process, with the meetings, and with the fact that things are moving slowly. For every diplomatic breakthrough, two new disagreements appear. And he's not wrong about one thing. This war is killing thousands of people every month, and the front line barely moves, and it must end. But Trump's NATO allies say it will only become bigger. In fact, they've issued a very specific warning, the NATO. They say a war with Russia may be coming. That's what NATO's new chief, Mark Rutte, has said. He said Moscow is probing NATO's borders the way it probed Ukraine's borders in 2021.
We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way. When I became NATO Secretary General last year, I warned that what is happening in Ukraine could happen to allied countries too. That we had to shift to a wartime mindset.
If Ukraine falls, Russia will test NATO next. So the alliance is suddenly discussing things that Europeans thought they'd left behind. Things like drafts and conscription, ammunition shortages, and 5-year timelines for potential conflict.
We need to be ready. Because at the end of this first quarter of the 21st century, conflicts are no longer fought at arm's length. Conflict is at our door. Russia has brought war back to Europe, and we must be prepared for the scale of war our grandparents and great-grandparents endured.
So why is this war escalating? Because while everyone wants peace, they don't want the same peace. The US wants closure before this becomes an election year liability. Europe wants a deal that stops Russian aggression. Ukraine wants justice and security guarantees. Russia wants territory it couldn't win on the battlefield. So everyone says peace, but the maps in their heads do not match. And it won't change anytime soon. So that's the real question tonight, perhaps. Are we watching a peace process begin or a new war take shape? As they say, only time will tell.
I was born into revolution. I inherited power like a crown. What I delivered was isolation. I built a personality cult that touched every home. Millions suffered hunger under my rule, but no one dared to speak. I ruled from palaces. My people queued for rice. I called myself the dear leader. History calls me something else, the dictator. Who am I?